Shalom. So David is on vacation, and since he is on vacation, I thought I might do something. I have no idea why this isn't working correctly, but okay. I thought I might do something. If people are interested, they have uh, anything in particular they would like, please do let me know. But what I was thinking of doing was giving an example of things that are not easy to translate. Um, and one of the, um, if I can remember where this was, I think this is where it was. Uh, yeah. So this is Genesis 4:26. ולשת גם הוא יולד בן, ויקרא את שמו אנוש, אז הוחל לקרוא בשם הוויה. And to Seth in turn, a son was born, and he named him Enosh. It was then that Havaya began to be invoked by name. Now, what does that mean? This is not the first time in the Bible that the Tetragrammaton is used. In fact, it is used earlier. So what does it mean that that's when it first started to be invoked? Now, if you look at the word huchal, let's see if the dictionary, Hebrew verb halal, to profane, defile, pollute, desecrate, begin. And obviously here the word in its most simple sense means to begin, right? And it is in the hufal or hofal, right? To be begun, right? But similarly, and it comes from halal, right? To poke a hole in, to bore, right? And so it apparently it even is related to the word flute, right? To be pierced. And here it gives you all the like Ethiopic, hollow, Arabic, perforate, pierce through, transfix. So when you're translating from Hebrew to English, the first translation should clearly be, right? Began, huchal, was begun. But the rabbinic interpretation, the sin of Enosh is to profane the name of God. Why? Because the rabbinic interpretation is that he started recognizing the godliness in everything. And because he did that, he was the name of God started becoming profane, started becoming something that's not special and holy. And that is the beginning of, and if you read Maimonides, the first two chapters of the laws of idolatry in the Mishnah Torah, this is the explanation he gives. Here, let's go. And halacha, Mishnah Torah, foreign worship and the custom of nations. 1:1. In the days of Enosh, humans made a great error, and the sages of that generation gave ignorant advice, and Enosh himself was one of those in error. This was their error. They said, since God created these stars and the spheres that guide the world and placed them in the heights and treat them with honor, and they are servants that serve before him, it is fitting to praise them and to glorify them and treat them with honor. This is the will of God, blessed be he, that they make great and honor those whom God had made great, and honored like the king who desired to honor those who stand before him. And this is the honor of the king. Since this matter arose in their hearts, they began to build palaces to the stars, and to make sacrifices to them, and to praise and glorify them in words, and to bow down before them in order to obtain favor of the Creator. This is the essence of idolatry, and thus it is said its worshippers know its essence. They would not say that there is no God other than a star. That this is what Jeremiah says: who will not fear you, sovereign of the nations? Because to you is appropriate. Because among all the wise men of the nations and in all their kingdoms, there's none like you. There are both stupid and foolish. The instruction of idols is but wood. That is to say, everyone knows that you are unique, but their mistake and their folly that they think of as emptiness is your will. This isn't a very good translation. But so it is this sin of beginning to call God's name on everything. And you can, yes, I have been here this early. In fact, sometimes I'm here even earlier in the day. It happens. So when you read back in the Bible in the Hebrew, you see that hint very clearly as huchal, right? Because the double entendre, the meaning, the hidden meaning there is pretty clear. But you can only do that in Hebrew. I wouldn't be able to translate from Hebrew to English in such a way that would be clear. Now, I guess I could put some sort of note on the bottom, and there are translations which try to annotate things and to point things like this out. But when you know Hebrew and someone points something like this out, it becomes part of the richness of the biblical text itself and helps you to understand. And that's why midrashim are so prominent within Judaism, and they have a different um, texture to them. And honestly, on Twitter, there's been a lot of debate, they about um, how Judaism changed in response to Christianity. And a lot of the claims that people make are not defensible, I believe, at all. But one of them, which is clearly true, is that we used to um, have Torah readings in Greek, and we stopped. We only do Torah readings in Hebrew. And that was a direct result of seeing what was going on in the Christian world, because first the Christians started doing gematrias in Hebrew, in Greek, and then midrashim in Greek, and um, things that just simply did not work in the Hebrew itself, which is part of how Christianity ended up diverging so much from Judaism. Um, anyway, so that was my little thing that I thought I would start with. I don't know, are if people are interested in delving into the Hebrew, or the links right there if they want to jump on um, and discuss any topic. Um, I just didn't want the regular Bible study to be interrupted for no good reason. Well, I mean, I guess you guys like David more, but he couldn't be here. Well, if you guys aren't going to say anything, I mean, I guess I could go back to my Job stuff. So Sandy, I mean, you can jump on when if you want to. No, someone joined Jacob. I'm at work right now, and people can hear too easily. I see. Well, I mean, is there a topic you guys are interested in? I don't want to just sit here and talk to myself. It's been a long time since I did my Job stuff. Let's see, how long since the last time I did Job? Job. Oh, this week was Rabbi Yoel Khan's Yortzeit. Um, I haven't been doing Maneh Chacham. Wow, it's been a lot of months since I did Joel. I mean Job. Joel. Job. Yeah, I think February maybe last time that I did. I was on Job chapter 9. Go through David's old lives and correct everything he got wrong. Um, well, there's a reason I let David stream on my channel. He actually knows his stuff. I doubt he got much wrong, and especially I am no um great student of Nach, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. Um, in fact, I'm a pretty bad student of Nach, to my great shame. And yeah, the only thing is, I mean, obviously he's trying to read the Trinity into something that doesn't exist. I mean, it's not there, um, and that's unfortunate. But yes, I jokingly say Nach is for girls. So we refer to the 24 books of the Bible as the Tanakh, which is an acronym: Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. So Torah being the 5 books of Moses, Nevi'im being the prophets, and Ketuvim meaning writings. And yes, the kaf at the beginning of Ketuvim turns into a chaf when it is at the end of a word. So it becomes Tanakh. Or you can, if you're just referring to Nevi'im and Ketuvim, you can refer to them as Nach, which is what we do. And yes, there is a tiny little joke in which we chide yeshiva men for insufficiently studying their Nach by saying Nach is for girls. Looks like Sandy's trying to join. Sandy successfully joined. Sandy, you're very dark.
I apologize, but my son Jacob has taken over the living room couch. So
Completely unacceptable.
I know.
How you doing, Sandy? It's been a while.
Go boot him out. I just hopped in to supervise if you're going to actually review David's past lives, which it sounds like Cassandra requested. I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm doing okay.
Okay,
My
work.
hours have been getting shortened at work because of yeah, just pain, life, and other things. So I'm navigating some decisions on and getting told off by my doctor for all the usual stuff. No pasta. She wants no pasta. Can you imagine?
Cutting carbs. Yeah, I've actually been trying to cut carbs for a while.
Yes, yeah. Here, let me see if I can just sit and face the other wall. There you go.
Yeah, we can
Um,
see you.
a little bit better. Yeah, so I've hit that lecture from doctor stage of life. More, I've had 3 tests or so in the last week. She's checking the
Mm.
blood, pictures of liver, some kind of other test upcoming related to the first 2. Hence the cut the carbs, please. So yeah, no fun. Would Job be appropriate follow up for those thoughts?
Job? Yeah, I guess. I mean, we could do Job if people want to do Job. Um, I don't know.
Wait,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm reading. How can it possibly be a long time? I'm reading Almond Tree. How can you not have carbs? You have to have some carbs.
So if I remember correctly, Rebecca's really big on eggs.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And Rebecca also has some medical issues, which I won't get into, but she can not digest a lot of things. So she's incredibly thin and has to eat and
Yeah.
has to, yeah. So Jason says I eat eggs. Yeah.
Only
Rebecca
eggs? I
only
do
eats
like
beef.
eggs, but
Well, yeah, Rebecca can't really I ate
oh,
60 eggs the other day. Yeah, Rebecca
oh,
can't really digest anything very fibrous. So,
right.
um
Yeah, I think Sherry's on that beef only plan too.
a
I
lot of
don't,
people are.
I don't think I'd survive it.
My problem is it can be really expensive and thing. Yeah, I didn't know if I wasn't going to say too much, but so I'll let Jason uh, reveal her private health information. She has a partial intestine, so she mostly only eats beef. Sometimes she will eat other stuff though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have gone either. I've either been told off by the doctor for being too light or too heavy for where she wants me in the last 15 years.
I have
Mostly,
never been told off for being too late. That's not.
no.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no. Something to do with how the system processes things. I had my thyroid removed, so
Dawn is kind of sort of listening. Jason says thank you for being cautious, but she's pretty open about it. Yeah, I just didn't know, and um, yeah, so
well, if she has any, besides eating beef only suggestions for trying to not kill my liver in the next few years, you feel free to send them. I'm trying to behave myself, but you know,
Yehuda Israel.
well, wow, is this a first? I
No,
mean, aside from when you guys just talked.
um, yeah, I mean, it might be the first time at a Bible study.
Just jumping on stream. Hey,
Shalom, shalom.
How you doing?
Great, great. How are you?
Good. How come you jumped on?
Oh yeah, I saw you were live, so I figured I'd come on.
Glad to have you. I haven't gotten to watch your latest videos. Yeah, I saw you had a few. Yeah.
Right, yeah, I was going after Jews for Jesus and Pastor Eduardo, Jeff Morgan. Yeah. Check them out for sure. They were distorting the Targum on Isaiah 53. I don't know how they can get away with this lie, like over and over again, saying that Rashi made it up in the Middle Ages. Sorry, I don't mean to derail the conversation. If this is like,
Well, the conversation wasn't really going anywhere. Yeah, it was funny. I got into a little debate on Twitter/X, and somebody. So have you heard of my $5,000 challenge, Yehuda?
no, I don't think so.
Okay,
What's that?
so my $5,000 challenge, which isn't mine, but I have readily made it as well because other people have made it, is I will give you $5,000 if you give me a single prophecy of the Messiah from the Hebrew Bible that Jesus of Nazareth uniquely fulfilled.
Uniquely is the operative word here, because they'll just go to, I think the easiest answer they could give is Zechariah 9:9. They will say that because he rode on a donkey, but the next verse
I
he
was
obviously
just thinking about that. Yeah, he rode on a donkey into Jerusalem. There you go. And it's like if you would like, I can go ride a donkey into Jerusalem tomorrow. Like, this is not a thing, right?
That's why uniquely I've learned to be very pointed in
Right.
the way, like, words are so important when having conversations with Christians, because if you say one word out of sorts, they will like nickel and dime you till the end of time.
Well,
so you have to be so precise with how you say things.
Right. And so I mean,
you did say you accounted for that because you said uniquely.
Yeah.
So I think you did do that. Yeah.
And I say a single prophecy, right? Because what they will do is they will try to string together prophecies and say, oh, he did this and he did that and he did that and he did that, right? And so, yeah, there's a reason why I say a single prophecy uniquely fulfilled of the Messiah, because then what they'll do is, including things like Psalm 110, they will, because like supposedly God said, sit at my right hand. Okay, like, first of all, how you know that Jesus is sitting at God's right hand is beyond me.
So you know what I say to that?
Go ahead.
I say, yeah, you have just as much proof that Jesus is sitting at the right hand of God in heaven as I do that Jesus is sitting at the left foot of Satan in hell. It's literally like you have no way of proving either. And he didn't fulfill any of Psalms 110. That's the irony, is that you look at every single pasuk, he didn't fulfill any of it. All of it is like this weird, like, allusion to, like, oh, maybe this will happen in the future. It fits, you know who it fits the best?
So the Frierdiker Rebbe of Chabad said it's all about Abraham.
Yeah, because that's in Nedarim 32a, which is exactly, or it's A or B. I can't remember which side of the daf. But like, yeah, it says like Melchizedek blessed Abraham, or Avram as he was called. And then what did he just get done doing when he met Melchizedek in Parshat Lech Lecha?
Fighting against the five kings.
Right, the four kings who defeated the five. And what is the first pasuk? It says, the Lord said to my Lord said to my Lord, right? Sit at my right hand while I make your enemies a footstool at your feet. And then in verse 5, after it says, you are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek, it says all divrati Melchizedek, or because the speech, however you want to translate that. The next pasuk says, "The Lord at your right hand crushes kings in the day of your anger." It fits like a glove with Avram. At least in the pshat is so clearly Avram, and that's all you have to do, because once you show them that a prophecy is, that they claim is about Jesus, is like applying to anybody else but just the Messiah. Because remember, I don't deny the idea that this could be about the Messiah. I actually have a Gutnick Tehillim. I got it on Purim many years ago. And the Rebbe, from Torah Menachem, he says it's about Mashiach. Okay, fine. That's not a problem. And you said the Frierdiker Rebbe says about Avram. These and these are the words of the living God. Wonderful. It's about, and there's other midrashim that says about King David. Rashi says, yes to all of that. But don't you dare tell me that this is some exclusively messianic prophecy about a king priest that can only apply to a divine man God, because Jesus said, "Who is David's Lord?" in Matthew 24 or whatever. It's just like, and you develop an entire insane theology base. It's insane to me. And that literally, did you know Psalms 110 is the most quoted passage in the New Testament?
Yeah.
Insane.
So I issued this challenge.
I did not know that. What is? I think you guys should have to study Psalm 110 then, because I don't even know what it is. How can it? And you're saying it's the most quoted one?
That's not a difficult Psalm 110. It's not a very long psalm either.
We quote it in Musaf in Av Rachamim, like the last two psukim or so.
Rosh, we always say at the end.
LeDavid Mizmor. So that Rabbi Skobach actually. So it's usually Mizmor LeDavid, and which usually gets translated as Psalm of David, but this is LeDavid Mizmor, and Rabbi Skobach says that so it was one that was actually sung to David or to the king at the temple. That was Rabbi Skobach's. But Ne'um Hashem la'adoni shev leyamini ad ashit oivecha hadom raglecha. So the word of the Lord to my master, and here they put Abraham. Shev leyamini, sit at my right, until I shall place your enemies as a footstool for your feet. Hadom l'raglecha. Mate uzecha yishlach Hashem mitzion redeh bekerev oivecha. The scepter of your strength, staff of your strength, they translated. God will send from Zion. Redeh bekerev oivecha. You will rule in among your enemies. Yeah. So redeh is command form there. Amecha nedavot bayom chelecha behadrei kodesh merechem mishchar lechatal yaldutecha. I don't like this translation. Let me change translations. Not JPS. Let's do Koren. Okay. Thy people offered themselves, nedavot are offerings, right? Willingly in the majesty of their holiness, on the day of thy battle, when still the dew of thy youth was upon thee, fresh from the womb of dawn, mirechem mishachar. Nishba Hashem velo yinahem ata kohen leolam al divrati Melchizedek. The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. Thou shalt be a priest forever. And how you want to translate al divrati Melchizedek it's a very curious way of describing I mean, this word divrati is it's not a normal way of saying things, but after the manner of Melchizedek is fine. I find the order of Melchizedek that the King James uses, and people take way too far to be kind of silly. But Hashem al yeminecha mahatz beyom apo melachim, and this is what Yehuda Israel was talking about. The Lord is at thy right hand. He crushes kings on the day of his wrath. Yadin bagoyim male geviot mahatz rosh al eretz rabbah. He judges among the nations. And I have to say, like, if you're going to say this is about Jesus, the one thing he did not do is judge the nations. Like, that is the very opposite of the claim of Christianity, that that Jesus came to judge Israel for refusing him and open like salvation up to the Gentiles. Well, that's not Yadin Bagoyim. Their land is full of dead bodies. He will shatter heads over many countries. Minachal b'derech yishteh al ken yarim rosh. He will drink of the brook in the way, therefore will he lift up the head. And I have no idea which brook supposedly Jesus drank out of, but there you go. Yeah, and so so what happened was that somebody actually, Richard, if some of you guys remember him from Biola University, had been talking to his friends, and they had a bunch of verses which they wanted to try for my $5,000 challenge at one of my Bible studies. So we're sitting there and we're going through them, and I'm showing them why it doesn't qualify. And Father Stephen jumped on. This is one of the most popular videos on my channel, actually. Here, I will show you guys how to find this. So it's a video. Hold on, let me pull it up. So if you guys want to watch this video, what you can do is if you go to my channel and you click on videos, because this is a video, Father Stephen jumped on, and what he here.
This tote is
he jumped on
capable of feeding you breakfast, lunch, dinner, and yes, even snacks.
Jesus and his family being brought into Egypt to protect.
Oh, ads.
Father Stephen. Oh my goodness, it's an honor to.
My name was said 3 times, and I follow Beetlejuice rules. So.
Oh my goodness!
Wow!
No,
I did not expect Father Stephen.
And me neither. My goodness.
At Q, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition joke.
So, what made you join Father Stephen?
Well, aside from Beetlejuice rules, I wanted to weigh in on this fulfillment thing.
Okay.
And save a bunch of people some time trying to fulfill your challenge, because they won't be able to.
Because they won't be able to. Father Stephen the Young, he is an archpriest of the Eastern Orthodox Church, specifically Antiochian Patriarchate, if you need to know. One of the most prominent Eastern Orthodox clergy in the world. Certainly one of the great scholars of the Hebrew Bible among Christians in general. And he's like, not going to happen. And you can go watch the rest of that video if you want, and he will explain, right? And then after he said that, over and over, people would come up to me and they're like, no, he didn't mean. And it's like, yes, he did mean. He said it.
Right. Yeah, the whole thing is the second
Coming cope, as I like, that's what it is. It's a cope for the fact that he didn't accomplish like anything that you said. Like, even when it comes to like the only thing, and remember, this is only based on what the New Testament says, that they say that he did was that he resurrected himself. And I made an analogy in my most recent video where I said, like, what if somebody said to you that they were going to fix your car, and they said, like, you're like, okay, so you're going to like pay them money, whatever. And then instead of fixing their car, they start flying in the air. And you're like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Like, and they're like, yeah, and you can do this too, but I'm going to go away for a little bit. I'm going to fly away to Mexico, or I'm going to fly to the moon or something. And I'll come back. I don't know when. Nobody knows the day or the hour. But as long as
then I'll fix your car.
Yeah, then I'll fix your car. But your car is
technically already fixed because you have the down payment, because you already paid me, because you believe in my ability to do this. And then you say like, oh, wow, you're amazing. And then they fly away. Your car's still not fixed. And you have this big smile.
2,000 years later. It's 2,000 years later. Your car's still not fixed.
And you're still going around saying, wow, this guy fixed
my car. He gave me the eternal car engine. I'm never going to need a new car ever again. And that is Christianity in a nutshell. Like, that's what it is that there's like sin was not done away with. Like, it's just this, it's like a snake oil salesman.
I have to say, it's not very persuasive to other people, but every time Christians say Christ is risen, death has been defeated, all I can think of is Eden Memorial is about, I live on Sepulveda Boulevard. You can take Sepulveda Boulevard about 15 miles north of here is Eden Memorial, and that's where both of my grandmothers are. Several of my aunts and uncles are, and several of my cousins are, including one who died younger than I am. He was only 37. So if you're going to tell me death has been defeated, like, F you. Seriously.
Yeah, it's just like ridiculous. Like, but that's what it is. It's just
this like complete delusional. I think there's just like this positive message of like, I don't know what it is. There's something about it that like gets at the psyche of humankind that, you don't, I think it's also playing into this idea. Yeah, here's something really interesting. So we're talking about Isaiah 53, obviously, in that video, and Jeff Morgan makes this asinine point saying that, well, Israel can't be the servant because if Israel was the servant, then you would have to call the nations who persecute Israel righteous, and because they're doing a good thing. And I was, because obviously from our interpretation of Isaiah 53, we believe that throughout the millennia, the righteous among us who were, made a Kiddush Hashem, like we even say this, the prayer for the 10 martyrs on Yom Kippur, like Rabbi Akiva, and like, so there's this idea here, and he's saying like, oh, so then you have to say that like the Romans who killed him were righteous people because they did something, great. And he's like, how backwards is that theology? So I steelman that, and I said, you know what's even more incredulous? The idea that Christians have never thanked the Jews for killing Jesus, because according to the New Testament, the Jews who wanted to kill Jesus were doing the most righteous thing imaginable, because according to your backwards theology, the only way to receive forgiveness, atonement, and salvation for your sins is through Jesus's death on the cross. So why are you going around calling us Christ killers? Why are you going around saying that we are the synagogue of Satan? And why is Jesus calling us the sons of the devil for doing what you claim is the most righteous act according to your theology, if you're going to claim that it's so asinine for Israel to be the servant, then the people who killed Jesus should be right on the top of that hierarchy of righteousness. But
yeah, especially if you're going to say Isaiah 53. Yeah, exactly.
That's what they believe.
So Chezi wants to
Yes.
know, has Yehuda heard of the Pinchas Lapid theory? I haven't
Yeah,
heard of
I
the.
have heard of it. Yes, it's
What's
very.
the Pinchas Lapid theory?
Pinchas Lapid claims that he, I guess he was
supposedly an Orthodox Jew that believed in the idea of Jesus resurrecting, but he didn't believe that he was the Messiah necessarily. So like he's like the closest thing to being like still being an Orthodox Jew, but like believing in like the idea of like, well, he resurrected, but he's not the Messiah. So I doubt he believed that he was God, because if he's an Orthodox Jew, then he would know that Deuteronomy 13 says that even if a prophet or dreamer of dreams resurrects from the dead, performs a miracle, and then he says, worship other gods who you have not known, or to reject that prophet, and that prophet will be killed. So that's why there's no problem with, once again, from a Jewish perspective, if he claimed to be a God in the flesh, then the Pharisees who wanted to kill him, according to the Sanhedrin, would be in good standing if he truly did make that claim and the Sanhedrin saw and all of that. But be that as it may, we don't really know the full story. But I think Pinchas Lapid, I don't think he believed that Jesus was God. I don't even think he believed he was Messiah, but for some reason he believes in the idea of the resurrection. But once again, if he was resurrected, what is stopping him from being at the left foot of Satan in hell over being at the right hand of God in heaven? There's no way to tell.
Well, for
It
me,
would only be if he was actually taken to heaven by God, the same as was it
Elijah and
Elijah
no,
and
that's the main thing. It's like, okay, let's say, I mean, I don't believe Jesus was resurrected, but let's say he was.
And
Let's say
I
he was.
was going to say to Yehuda's point earlier, you can't self-resurrect. I don't think anybody can self-resurrect.
Yeah, because if you can, then you weren't dead.
Then we just all would.
So I think this is more of like a semantic.
Like people will say like God resurrected Jesus. Like whatever word you want to use, it doesn't really that's not really the point I'm getting at. It's more like, okay, so if God resurrected Jesus, according to Deuteronomy 13, it could still be a test as to whether or not.
So let's say no. So he's not the only person in the Hebrew Bible or the Christian Bible who was resurrected. Lazarus, Tabitha.
The Christian claim, right.
The Christian claim is that because they assume that God resurrected him, right? That's their assumption based on what the New Testament says. And they claim because God resurrected him, that means that it validates everything he says. If he said worship a pig because God resurrected him, that means, according to the Christian idea, that you're supposed to worship a pig. They don't care about any other criteria because they say only God can resurrect the dead.
Where does it say that? Where does it say anywhere in the Bible that if somebody is resurrected, they can do anything? Like, where's any of this?
Here's what they're saying. I'm not
saying it makes sense. I'm saying in light of Deuteronomy 13, we can reject their claim. They don't respect Deuteronomy 13 when it says, like, it literally says the Lord your God is testing you to see if you love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul. But when I brought this up to a Christian, they said, like, well, then that means God is cruel. God is so cruel that he would resurrect Jesus, because you can't convince a Christian that Jesus didn't resurrect, because that's like
poor study is, I mean, if somebody is poor at studying, or if they're not equipped because they haven't been taught well, that's one thing. And I hear, like, I've heard a lot of the stuff that often shows up on some of the anti-missionary channels, and I'm like, yeah, so I may have heard some of these things from people, but it's not usually people who've spent a lot of time. Like the way that you guys go to school, or you go and you study, that's study. Most people don't do that. No, certainly not in a Christian context, not unless they're headed towards being a theologian of some kind. So I had a question, and I will defer to Yoav, but I will ask my question first because he jumped in. A while back, just when Yehuda was, and you were first talking about it, I was wondering because in some of the instances where they, the study of the four craftsmen and things come up, and whether or not, like at some point, somebody will fulfill all four of those roles, or five if somewhere I saw five. On the chance that Jesus has been a hot topic for 2,000 years because he was intended to be a hot topic, because he actually had a role to fulfill, if there was something that should be a takeaway for all of the Christians that come and hang around here about the importance of correctly identifying, not just, hey, you're stupid, you misidentify. What would be the main takeaway for how to correctly identify? Or what would be the key point that God would have?
The key point, I would say, is Acts 5, is what Gamliel says in Acts 5. It's one of the two places in the Christian Bible that when I read it, my jaw dropped. Like, what in the world makes you think that it's important that you know who the Messiah is? Why do you think you have to get involved in a fight over who the Messiah is? Like, what does it matter? Gamliel, like, it's right there in the Christian Bible, right? And despite the fact that we don't have it from any Jewish sources, every rabbi I've ever heard who's looked at it was like, that sounds like something Gamliel would say, because it's something we would say. It's like, why are you so hung up on this idea that you know who the Messiah will be? How does that change your life? Like, I mean, I kind of sort of jokingly have a picture of the Yanuka up because I kind of sort of want to let Christians know, hey, maybe he's the Messiah. But you know what? If he is or he isn't, that doesn't really change the fact that I have to love God and follow God, etc., 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 right? Now, the fact that I believe that he is somebody who is righteous enough and knowledgeable enough and holy enough that he could be the Messiah also means that I listen to what he says more, etc., right? But if he turns out not to be the Messiah, and certainly if he turns out not to believe in the Torah, not to be a holy and righteous person, then next.
And would you allow it to negate any of the good principles and things that you have learned, gained, the things that have impacted your life? Because that to me seems more important.
Of course not. I want to let Yoav say whatever he wanted to say, but Dawn asks, my big question is, why doesn't Judaism at least give credit to Jesus for being a prophet? Is it something he said? And I will respond to that with, I believe this is from Tovia Singer, the New Testament is filled with many new and wonderful things. The problem is the new things are not wonderful and the wonderful things are not new. Yoav.
God, then he's definitely not Messiah.
That's
What do you want to say, Yehuda?
No, I said if he claimed to be God, then that
immediately disqualifies him as being the Messiah, because
Right.
that would
If
show that
he
was,
claimed to be God, but I have to say I have not convincingly seen that he actually claimed to be God.
right. Yeah, I mean, whatever. That's up for debate.
But yeah, like assuming that, then that's immediately out of the question. And then the other things, it's just he didn't fulfill the messianic prophecies. So why would we acknowledge him as being a prophet when it makes these outlandish claims that the only way to atone for sin is through the death of Jesus on the cross. Like, that's not a Jewish idea.
What prophecy? I mean, like, what did Jesus prophesy? That the Messiah will come during the lifetime of the people 2,000 years ago? Makes him a false prophet. That's the only prophecy I'm aware of that he supposedly made. Yoav.
Hi.
מה שלומך?
I'm fine. How are you all? I'm here just to educate young God about a piece of Hebrew law.
Yeah.
Young God was referring to a series of Matrushka dolls. One sacrifice inside another. So at the end of the Passover feast, we sing a song. And maybe young God has never heard this song. So
I can pull it up.
Yeah. And the song is about a little lamb. And supposedly it's a young lamb. Supposedly he's innocent. And a bad cat comes and he eats this lamb. And then comes a dog and he eats the cat. And then comes a stick and he beats the dog. And then comes fire and burns the stick. And then comes water and kills the fire. And then comes an ox and he drinks the water. And then comes the man and he slaughters the ox. And then comes the angel of death and he kills the man. And then comes God and he kills that angel of death. Now follow the chain and tell me who is right and who is wrong. End of lecture.
So the last line is Va'ata HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'shachat l'malach hamavet v'shachat l'shochet v'shachat l'torah v'shata l'maya v'chava l'nura v'saraf l'chutra v'hika l'kalba v'nashach l'shunra v'achla l'gadia v'zabin abba b'trezuzeh chad gadia. And what's really funny is that the later verses are in Hebrew and the earlier verses are in Aramaic, which is usually the opposite of most things, including Achad mi yodea. But yes, then came the Holy One and slew the angel of death, who slew the slaughterer, who slew the ox, who drank the water, that put out the fire, that burned the stick, that hit the dog, who bit the cat, who ate the goat. My father bought for 2 zuzim, 1 little goat, 1 little goat.
You know what?
And then the Gentiles read this song and say, these Jews are all about the money. It's always about the money.
Here's what surprised me about this. I was at my in-laws had a Seder, and some of my sister-in-laws are, as they say, SY, Syrian.
Oh.
And I was told that they don't have Chad Gadya. I'm pretty sure it was Chad Gadya in their Agada. And I was like, what? This is an Ashkenaz? I'm just trying to figure.
So,
I'll be real,
apparently the Chidah goes on at length in one of his, it may be even in Seder Olam or something, but apparently there's a whole polemic by the Chidah against the people who say Chad Gadya is some Ashkenazi thing and not to say it, and he goes to town against them. Yeah.
So that I was correct in what I remembered. It was Chad Gadya that they didn't have because the Chidah. Okay.
Yeah. The Chidah, actually, he says it's a beautiful thing, and apparently he has a pirush, if I remember correctly. But yes, so you can pull out the Chidah on them, and even Syrians Well, I don't know about the Syrians. I have to say, the Syrian community is the one part of the Orthodox Jewish community that I think we as Orthodox Jews need to be a little harsher on. It is one thing for them to not accept new converts in their Batei Dinim. It's a completely other thing when an Orthodox
when they don't acknowledge
person
people who have already been
converted. That I'm sorry, but that's it's beferish. What, 6 different
I heard of an instance
Lavin in the Torah?
my mind, like somebody had like a Jewish mother but not a Jewish father, and they didn't let them have an aliyah. That was like, I was like, what? That's insane. They're halakhically Jewish even by your standards. They can't have an aliyah to the Torah. That was like kind of, that blew my mind.
The Syrians go really crazy on this stuff, and I really dislike that the Orthodox Jewish community is like, oh, that's their minhag. No, I'm sorry. We're talking about Torah prohibitions here. You can't have, like, this is Torah prohibitions. You're going way too far.
It's a fascinating community.
And the fact is, if they weren't so rich, there wouldn't be so many rabbis lining up to defend these customs. But
they're all in deal now.
The Syrian community is incredibly wealthy, and they should continue to be incredibly wealthy. But they should continue to be incredibly wealthy while keeping the Torah.
While keeping the Torah, no, they're wonderful people. I have a lot of positive things to say, but it is weird that there's like these divisions. That's what I've noticed since I've been here, is that like there's still divisions in, like other Jewish communities, but like, man, like it gets really, you'd expect in this hodgepodge of, so many Jewish people that there would be more unity, but I don't know.
Look, part of it, I actually kind of like the fact that the Orthodox Jewish community has so much variety in them, but as long as it's within the Daled Amot of halacha, it's what is acceptable in Shulchan Aruch. Okay, you can have all kinds of variety. So you dress differently. Your prayers are a little different. Things like that, but ultimately it has to comport with halacha. And when there are Torah prohibitions that we're discussing here, I'm sorry, it's too far. Yeah, and like Chezi says, we made the Ethiopians accept the new reality. The most of the Ethiopian community, as I understand it, has changed a lot of the ways they did things, and that's how it should be, because we're one Jewish community and we are united under Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law.
Because see, that's the way it's always going to work. Is that in the Orthodox world, if a community isn't up to par with, like, if they're like more makel with something, then the Orthodox Jewish community is going to force them to get up to par. But if an Orthodox Jewish community is more machmir, you're not. That's what I've noticed. Because, like, if they're gonna say, like, we're more stringent about our yichus, as, like, out of pocket that might sound to our, ear today, in the religious Jewish world, the Gedolim, I don't feel like that's not going to be their priority to, like, tone it down a little bit,
No, this is a serious problem. And frankly, among the Noachites, it's a serious problem as well, I think, which is it is very easy to be machmir. It's and I mean, the Talmud already says koach deheter adif, right? It takes a greater strength to allow something, and people are very very reluctant. So I've told this story a billion times, but I'll tell it one more time. There was a very prominent Noahide community, which I know many rabbis read the posts, and some this Noahide posted that he was a painter, and he had gotten a 2-year contract to paint icons at a paint the walls with saints and stuff on a Eastern Orthodox church, right? And it was a 2-year contract. He'd already completed a year of the contract, and he had gotten paid. And obviously he'd spent that money living, right? And he had another year on his contract to finish painting. And during that time, he had become a Noahide, and now he wanted to. Now he didn't know whether he was allowed to keep on doing the work. And frankly, I would be absolutely shocked if he went to a knowledgeable posek, a rabbi who has the knowledge to tell him what he should do, that the rabbi would tell him he has to return the money and all of that he shouldn't, at the very least, maybe hire somebody else to do it or something like that. But the rabbi would find a way, because that's the job of a rabbi. And frankly, there are many reasons to be mekel there, not the least of which that he the images on the walls aren't the ones that people kiss and bow down to, etc. They have icons for that, right? And everybody in that community was jumping down his throat. You're giving up your life in the world to come. You're for money. You're selling it to idolatry, etc., etc., etc. Because a lot of the Noahides are former Christians, and they are very, very anti-Christian, right? Don says the fact he became a Noahide while painting icons in a church is actually the most interesting part of this story. If you go to Tanakh Talk, they have a playlist of testimonials of something, and I'm sure there's over 50 videos there. And if you listen to them, almost every single one is, I was a pastor, I was a Bible teacher, I was the child of a pastor, I was studying my Bible, trying to understand it better, and that's how I became a Noahide. And I have never seen somebody say, I was studying Talmud, I was studying Tanakh, I was studying Mikraot Gedolot, and that's what, like, I got to Isaiah 53, read it in Hebrew, and I was like, that's Jesus. I have never heard of anybody say anything like that. And I think there's a reason for that. But back to the story, and none of the rabbis stepped in to say, hey, and I did. I was like, hey, hold your horses. You guys are not poskim. You don't get to tell this man how to live his life. You don't know the halachas. And frankly, I think they got the halacha wrong, because frankly, I know for a fact that if he had asked any of the poskim I know, they would have told him he could finish the contract. And like, I wasn't poskening, but I can tell you what the psak would be. And it really bothers me that rabbis are not standing against this lurch towards chumras and Chezi says the same thing, and yeah, Yehuda. And frankly, I've seen rabbis who have tried to stand up to them.
Is it easier for the rabbis to do that, or like? Because one of the things, like even before when I said, well, what's the point? What's the takeaway? Aside from simply, cutting down all the sort of negative aspects of perceiving Jesus as Messiah. When reading through things, what's the main takeaway? I think that place relates in a way to what you're seeing with people who are, like angry dumping Christianity. I've listened to Tanakh Talk, and you listen to people who are very, this is cut and dry. It's black and white. I mean, you could stick any words in the mouth of somebody who sounds like that, and they could equally be screaming about why Jesus is the absolute this and had to die and all of the negative, as opposed to what they're actually saying of, and now we're mad that we believe that, and so this and this and this is true.
It's a very similar, it's a very similar type of thinking. And frankly, the rabbis that I have seen have, including the rabbis who are very involved in this stuff, have basically said, precisely what you're saying is that this is a very Christian way of thinking of things, right? A Christian who leaves Christianity to become a Noahide, first and foremost, should be very grateful that Christianity led them to study the Torah and understand God better, and despite all of its flaws, right? And when they become incredibly, like, it is extending precisely that it's mostly Protestants who are like this, but like that fundamentalist Christian view of these people are going to hell, these people are chosen and going to heaven, right? And I get to judge and things like that. But so, for example, Rabbi Tauber here in Los Angeles is one of the most respected poskim here in Los Angeles that people go and ask their questions to. And he used to make it a point. This was 20 years ago. But he, on Fridays, he would go to Trader Joe's and buy the whole salmon that they were selling there without a hechsher, without a kosher certification. Specifically, he would go buy it himself, right? And he said, I heard him say that he would go buy it himself so that people would see him do it and understand that it's perfectly fine to buy a whole fish with its scales on from Trader Joe's, even if it doesn't have kosher supervision, because there's a lot of people who are like, no, if unless there's kosher supervision, I'm not. And he's like, it's cheaper.
Sorry, I gotta go to Mincha. Shalom Aleichem. Thanks.
Daven for us too.
For sure. Bye.
And like these rabbis also have to make sure that people are not being overly strict on things, not because you can definitely take it too far. Yeah. Chezi says hakarat hatov, which means gratitude for good things, recognizing good things. Jacob, we are witnessing change that includes things like Rabbi Malamed's new book. These topics are becoming mainstreamed. Sway? Yeah. I mean, I'm still trying to read Rabbi Malamed's book. I mean, I don't know. I'm not becoming a huge fan. But yeah. Did any of that in any way address any of the stuff you were saying, Sandy?
Oh, yes. Thank you. It's hard sometimes, especially jumping in with, I'm constantly not humiliated. What is it? Humbled to see how many Jewish people have spent far more time looking into, reading up on, and comparing what they learned of Judaism to what's out there of Christianity, and can quote it far better than most Christians I know. And so, like, when I try to bring something up about, yeah, I wouldn't just have said you need to be careful how strict you are, because I don't know, that can be construed in several different ways, but I think it's really key to what I was pointing at and what your answer was, that yeah, we have to take things with seriousness, but when we start banging them like a drum, then we've probably gone off key somewhere.
Well, I mean, I get every once in a while this certainly Noachides, but even Jews who are like, yeah, Christianity is idolatry. And yes, I tell Christians they're idolaters, but if you take that seriously, if we actually believed that Christianity was idolatry, we as Jews would have to act with it in very different ways. So religious Jews who live in India, for example, can't go eat at restaurants, can't simply go buy things at the market, because almost everything, people have offered it up to some idol, etc., 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 right? Whereas I don't think anybody who's serious thinks that if a Christian prays over your food, it becomes something that's been dedicated to an idol, right? And the famous Tosfot, right? I forget where it is in the Talmud, but over the question of whether or not you can have a business partner, because the Talmud there is saying that you cannot have a business partner who is an idolater, because you might come to have a disagreement with him, and if you do, you will end up he will end up swearing by his gods, and that would be idolatry. So you're causing idolatry. And Tosfot there says, and we don't do this with Christians because they're not idolaters, right? So if you truly believed that Christianity is actually idolatry, we would have to have a lot more strictures, which we do not. And this is one of the things people, especially Christians, don't understand about Orthodox Jews. And frankly, I think Jonathan Pageau misunderstands about Orthodox Jews, is he thinks that we actually think it's idolatry, and it's not true. As he says, being a fan matters less. It's more about his book addressing these topics. Yeah. I mean, look, the fact that Orthodox Judaism, that Orthodox Jews are starting to even know about Noachides, which they are. And I seriously do believe eventually we're going to have a Gentile section in synagogues again. A dedicated place in in the synagogue for Gentiles to come and sit, and there will be people there. And so, yeah, we'll see. I am babysitting Stella, Jack's dog, and Stella, more so than my dog, likes to sleep under my foot.
Yep.
So she's right here under my foot, and she's bigger than. Not sure what you're saying, Hazi. Even a cross itself is not idolatry? Yeah, probably. Maybe people wouldn't be so confused about it that if you stopped saying it, Jacob. It's so you have to communicate to the person you're talking to. You have to communicate to the person you're talking to. And part of the problem that when I speak to people is, and it's a serious problem, is people think that I'm a squish. Right? They think that I am toning down Judaism in ways that an actual Orthodox Jew would not. And I have to show them, I'm not a squish, right? I'm not just trying to meld Judaism with Christianity. At the same time, I also have to get my point across, right? It's not true that I think it's just plain fine for Christians to be Trinitarians. I don't. I think it poisons your soul. I mean, to get into the whole universalism thing, here, I'll pull up my comments on Luke's stream. So Luke had yet another stream on universalism, and I where's that thing? I didn't see him respond to this. Or I didn't respond. But what did I say about that stream? There. That live stream was sinful, hateful, prideful, and self-indulgent, and if you do not repent of it, you will be eternally punished for it. Now, do I believe that Luke is going to eternally burn in hell for having his horrible stream on thing? Well, yes, he is definitely incoherent. Luke, that is Luke's problem. I mean, my first comment was I'm a rationalist. Luke Thompson. Did I step through the looking glass? Like, yeah, Luke as the rationalist is just the funniest idea to me. Luke is anything other than a rationalist, but like, you have to get your point across. And without me saying to Luke, no, you're going to burn in hell for that, I don't think Luke is going to understand that I really, really genuinely believe what he is doing is actually harmful.
Curiosity.
Yeah.
Harm is a word that's kind of come in and out of favor the last few years. What would be an example of harmful?
Well,
Like-
I mean, harmful in that people may, in fact, start believing in universalism, and that will lead them to do things which will destroy their lives. That's harm. That's actual harm.
Yeah.
Right? Like, real harm will result from people believing in universalism. Universalism is a terrible, terrible idea. It's an idea that will have repercussions. I mean, this goes back to my discussions with Clara, right? Like, I asked her, okay, at what point should professors get capital punishment for their ideas? And obviously, I was being a little bit hyperbolic, but like, when your supposed academic ideas leads to things like the killing fields of the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, which was a direct result of Noam Chomsky's stupidity. Like, there is a direct line from his stupid advocacy to people actually dying in the killing fields of Cambodia.
So I'm going to admit I don't really know much about Chomsky or what he said or did.
So he was basically an apologist for the Khmer Rouge, and to the degree that he's apologized, he's never actually apologized. He's like, well, there were things I didn't know. It's like, F you. They were literally killing people. Like, take some responsibility.
Yeah, do we have that concept anymore?
Of responsibility?
Well, that and action, words lead to action, and you may or may not have given thought to what you're, the action that you're promoting. Do we know that? Because I feel like there's a lot of that going on even now. Chomsky might be famous for it.
So Jan God says, guys, what's the point of talking about this? The point of talking about this is actually, hopefully, that we will have a community where people take responsibility for the things they say and the effects of the things they say. Fezzi says, I agree, Jacob. I wouldn't say poison, rather clouds the soul of to Jews. It's poison. Shamot tuman nitan lahem. Okay, I guess. Yeah. Rabbi Malamed's student was just on a popular Israeli podcast promoting the book, and they discussed the topic with regards to the cross. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, how long does David usually go? He usually
an hour, and when this would be kind of his limit for when it gets, a lot longer. Technically it's an hour, but seldom is. It's usually a little bit over, but not as much over. So, and it's been lovely chatting with you. And if you're ready to shut down the Bible study discussion, that's fine, because I have Jacob in the other room and promised him a walk.
You go walk with Jacob. Walk with Jacob, Sandy. Walk with Jacob.
I will. Have a good day. Bye.
Talk to you later.
Yep. I've lost my... There we go.
Great Bible study. We didn't do much Bible study. If the road to hell is paved with good intentions, then think of all the good intentions. If we start talking about bad things happening, we just need to look about us. Not sure what you're saying. Oh man, that's what Sam Harris was talking about, the intentions. Young God, I'm still not sure what you're saying. If you want to come on and explain what you're saying, you could do that. I'm just going to give it a little bit more and then probably shut down.
I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry, Reverend. Thank you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian. And I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes that devil's advocate thing too far.
There a proverb that says something like, "Don't answer a fool according to his folly."
But there's a proverb that says, "Answer a fool according to his folly."
There is.
Exactly right. I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
The